Hello all, this is Dr. Dave Maslach talking to you about reciprocity.com. The E is written with a 3, and in this particular video I want to talk to you about how to become a more successful researcher and avoiding pitfalls of research. So if you don't know me, an associate professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There were so many people that helped me out that I want to pay the favor forward and help you out. All right, so before I begin, I want to give you this particular disclaimer. I'm not necessarily a successful researcher. I don't view myself as a successful researcher. There's many people that I work with that are far more successful in many different dimensions in terms of how much research that they actually publish, in terms of where they're actually publishing, in terms of the journals that they're publishing at, in terms of the fame that they have, and even in the sort of academic world, the colleagues and friends that I'm with, they're outstanding in many different ways, and they're far better than I am in terms of, doing research. So this is not necessarily a video about, how successful I am compared to all these other people. That's not what this video is, but it is a video about how I can actually stay centered about myself. And hopefully it's going to help you out in terms of staying centered for yourself as well. It's not about, dealing with all the sort of how to become the best person in a particular field, but it's how to actually become a successful researcher that you feel that you're a successful researcher and you are okay with the stuff that you actually do. And that's really important. All right, so the key principle with this entire video is to really leverage the feedback of others and to actually disregard all of the politics and gaming that happen all around you. Those are the two probably most important lessons that I've learned so far in academia, is just actually listen to what other people are saying in terms of the feedback around the idea, and as well as disregarding all of the sort of gaming that happens and people talking about how to do this and to do that, and then you're going to become more successful. I'm not saying that those aren't important. Actually, doing the gaming and the politics and stuff really will give you resources in the academic world. It truly will, and we know that from research that sort of looks at the sort of political economy of companies, for example. That is really important in terms of this politicking that happens. But, it's something that I don't necessarily deal with very well. And so I'm not actually going to acknowledge that, because I know that it actually does work. But at the same time, that's not the person that I am deep down inside. So I try to avoid it as much as possible. And I also know that sort of just being is political, and whatever you say is political. So I'm well aware of those particular things in terms of those critiques. But here it goes. All right. So number one is just find people that are curious about the idea, whatever that looks like, and not about gaming the system, and just have conversations with those people about what you can improve about the idea. So just do the thing that you want to do and actually have conversations with people that actually really are interested in something, rather than, all the other stuff that goes on around it. And all of this other stuff, I know that we vent and we have these discussions, and that's totally fine. We all deal with that kind of stuff, and we all sort of, gossip and have sort of political conversations about all this kind of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And you know what I'm talking about with the sort of academic world, just like every other world that there is, and the struggles that you have. But really, it's just about focusing on the idea and sort of being curious about the things that you're working on. It really does improve what you are doing. And it's a lot more exciting to do that. So the second thing is to focus on the idea, whatever it is that you're working on, and not on the outcomes of that idea. I know that's tricky to do because we all want to have fame, fortune, citation metrics, tenure, getting a job, all that kind of stuff. But all of that stuff is lagging indicators of your work, of working on a particular idea. You have to sort of think about where you're going in the future, and that stuff that you're working on right now is going to help you out in 5 to 10 years from now. All that other stuff that sort of is talking about in terms of getting a job and all that kind of stuff, that is a lagging indicator. That stuff that has happened, you get the rewards from the stuff that's happened in the past. And so all you can do is just do good work. Just do the stuff that really matters to you and that you care about, and you continue to do good work at that particular idea. So the other thing you have to do is, and this is a third thing, is just persist at something for a very, very long time. It doesn't matter what that thing is. You can't see really what's interesting with the idea until you iterate and you keep working at the thing for a long time. And I know a lot of people will say, well, that's kind of silly. But, in my experience, I really did not see, and this is just talking about me, it's not talking about other people. Other people are more successful than I, but this is how I keep going, is I just don't see the things. I'm not that smart. I just don't see the things that are clever or interesting until I've actually worked at it for a long time. And then once I've worked at it for a long time, then it starts coming clear to me, or clearer, and then what I had before. I don't think that's necessarily unusual, because I know that's why surgeons go for training for a long, long time, because they don't see all the ins and outs of how the brain works, for example, until they've been struggling with something for a long time. And then they start seeing a little bit more than what they've seen in the past. But I know for me personally, this benefits me tremendously of sticking with something. And that's why I'm actually doing these silly little YouTube videos on the Reciprocity Project. I know that I can create this sort of platform where it's going to help and give feedback to other people, where you have this sort of forward-facing component where it's a sharing economy proofreading platform where you can get feedback and help other people. But then in the background, we can open it up to researchers that want to do randomized controlled trials and look to see at how we actually do things and work, which is really hard to get in most organizations and most firms. It's really difficult to get any of this kind of stuff. And so I wanted to do it, and I started working on it, and it's been, I guess, started in like 2015. I mean, this has been 4 years of just continuing to do this. YouTube videos, I've got lots of different YouTube videos. You can see how much I've actually worked at this, and I'm slowly starting to see some sort of rewards from all of this kind of stuff. And I know it just takes time to work at the stuff. So the fourth thing is to adapt to information that is focused on the idea and to pivot into the feedback. So what does that mean, right? So somebody is going to give you negative feedback, whatever that looks like. They might say that, and this is all stuff that happened to me. So this is my own stuff, right? So they might say that you have big ears. Well, yes, I do have big ears, right? You might have sort of weird looking teeth. Yes, I do. You might have eyebrows that are shaped in a certain way. Yes, I do. And so you have to lean into that stuff and say, yes, honestly, I do have big ears. I have, weird looking teeth. I got eyebrows that are really, kind of striking. But, all of those things kind of help me out in many different ways. It might seem more attractive to other people, and some people might find that interesting. But at the same time, you have to, really highlight what that actually means in terms of what it is that you're actually thinking about, right? So with all those particular critiques that you might get with an idea, the same sort of thing, they might say, well, that idea is really dumb. You should have thought of that. And so you begin the conversation with that, right? That, oh yeah, so going back to the analogy of thinking about, my big ears. Yeah, I have big ears, but I also know that it helped me sort of deal with these kind of things. And that's why I'm actually doing these open conversations with you, because it's life struggles that I had, and probably other people have had the same sort of experiences. And if I didn't have that sort of teasing or people sort of picking on me when I was younger from those experiences, then I probably wouldn't have done any of these YouTube videos. Life would have been too easy. And it wouldn't have mattered for me to do this, and wouldn't have mattered for me to even continue with academia, because I didn't have the sort of way that I would socialize in many different ways, because I felt that I was being picked on all the time. So I worked and did the sort of book thing, right? Sort of stereotypical thing where I stick my head into ideas. And that is okay, right? So that was a trajectory that helped me out tremendously to do that. So you have to pivot into the negative feedback that you ever get with any idea that you get. So it's the same thing with, and it's going to be hard. There's no way, like me talking openly about this right now, about all these kind of things. And every time that somebody sort of mentions that, or it comes up in conversation, any of that kind of stuff, right? That is picking apart something, either your idea or maybe it's your physical characteristics or whatever it is. It does hurt, but you pivot into it and you sort of acknowledge it and you do a big gulp. And then you just kind of keep going, right? And you keep working at that. And it's going to help you sort of deal with those critiques because you acknowledged it. And there's like, okay, they just go, okay, like there's nothing they could do. You just point blank acknowledged all those particular limitations. So the fifth thing to do is to build the idea rather than identifying support for the idea, right? So work on crafting the story and crafting the theory and crafting all that kind of stuff and work on that. And then once you built it until it's really robust, then go out and test that particular theory. And you can do all sorts of really cool things now in terms of registered tests and all that kind of stuff. But really what you want to do is focus on building the idea first and spending all your effort on that. That's what gets you publications. And then the sort of testing component of it and digging for data and all that kind of stuff, that should be really minor. It shouldn't actually take that long to do that. And I've learned that over the years that I used to spend way too much time on sort of the data and stuff like that and focusing on all that kind of stuff rather than thinking about the idea first and dedicating all my time and effort to the idea. The more that you do that, the better off you're going to be in the long run. And then, somebody picks apart that data and you just say, or the results, you just say, sorry, like, yeah, it's a limitation. Just write it in there that it's a particular limitation. And then it's kind of like, sorry, like we did everything that we could. And then you keep working at it, right? So that might be the first iteration that you do that, but then you do it again, right? And it just gets better by doing that. And you're spending all of your time working on the idea, then working on the sort of data behind it. And the sixth thing is, you really need to find joy in your life and be among people that you really care about and to have joy all together. And you have to work at this. It is really difficult to work on all of this kind of stuff, right? Like working to learn how to laugh and to goof around. It's tricky. It's not an easy thing to do, but once you sort of you get that and you self-correct, right? We all do this, myself, and I'm talking to myself. We self-correct, right? So we get these sort of moments where we're like, I'm feeling really grumpy. Well, then go do stuff that make you feel joyous and have fun and sort of laugh, or do things where you can see what the challenge is all about and where you're actually going. That's going to give you a lot of joy. It's not necessarily about laughing and the sort of instantaneous moment of it, but knowing that you're working on something that truly does matter to you. That's why I'm continuing to work with this reciprocity project, because it really does matter to me. I know that there's many people around the world that deal with all this kind of stuff. It does cost me time and effort, and it's taking away from my own research, whatever that might look like, and all that kind of stuff. But I truly know that other people, if this was me and I was going back and I was 25 years old and there was somebody else that was speaking openly and having conversations like this would have helped me out so much. And that's why I do it. It's not necessarily for all of the other kind of stuff. I just know that for me, it would have helped me out, and it does help me out as well by doing that, right? So it's there's something else that's there, is what I'm saying, that's giving me joy. And it's more than just kind of the nitty gritty kind of stuff or the central thing that's behind it. It's more about having connection and developing relationships with other people. It's really cool. And it really means a lot to me when, I just went to a conference recently and somebody came up to me and yeah, some people will say I watch your videos, and I'm really like this, right? Like it's a little embarrassing that people watch my videos, but at the same time, there's people that come up and they say that it really helped with dealing a lot of stuff, and that matters a lot to me in terms of, I know that there's other people that are having these same experiences. So that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. What I did is talk to you about how to become a more successful researcher, not in the sense of this is going to make you become the most successful researcher in the world. No, this is all about like how I deal with becoming better as a human being and becoming a better researcher myself. And so hopefully this does help you out. I told you about really focusing on leveraging the feedback of others and disregarding all the other crap that goes on behind it. That's a good life lesson, I think. And you could play those games and maybe, and it will benefit you. I'm going to tell you that right up front. If you play those games, guaranteed, going to benefit you. But then you have to be true to yourself, what you're about and what you are, who you are as an individual. And I really do want myself to be who I am. I want to be authentic. I want to be me. I don't want to do all that kind of stuff. It really does eat me up. So I try to avoid it. Not easy, but I try.